Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Oh, Captain, my captain.
I'm telling you straight, it's my way or the highway.
Oh, command me, Lord. Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? I always ask that of all my prey. I just like the sound of it.
I'll have what she's having.
You have chosen wisely.
It reminds us of all that once was good. And it could be again.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious...
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. Classic movies, 30 years in the making. It is the 30-something movie podcast. This is episode number 243. This time we were talking The Dream Team. So it's a 1989 movie, but this is not one of our regularly scheduled 1989 movies. This is the month of May, so it is the Movies We Missed month. And the premise of this month is we wanted to kind of take a look back and say we are just about done with the 80s as we move on into the 90s next year. But there are some movies that we definitely wanted to take a look at that we just couldn't get to. Just time constraints, or we started this podcast in the kind of 84, 85 years. So we definitely didn't touch on anything from 80 to 83. So if you were here last week, we were talking about Cannonball Run. That was from 1981. I know my movie, I think, is coming up next week, and that is American Werewolf in London. And then we've also got Jeff's that's coming up. American Werewolf in London, I think, was 81 as well. Jeff's is going to be coming up too, and that is E.T. from 1982. I don't know. Dennis hasn't sent me one yet, so I don't know if Dennis is going to do one or not. But if he does, we'll throw that one into the mix too. If you are thinking ahead, so I'll just throw this out here really fast, but if you're thinking way ahead to next month for June and you want to watch some movies before we talk about them, next month in June, we're going to be doing Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Drugstore Cowboy, Tango and Cash, Roadhouse, and you can hear Pat ready for the Roadhouse already.
Oh, yes.
There you go. Let me tell you this. It's my way or the highway. And then at some point in June, we're going to be hitting our 250th episode, which is, Jeff is taking the reins on that one, and we're going to be talking favorite cartoons of the 80s. So, and he has declared that firm decisions will be made. No loosey-goosey, you set up which I'm going to say, that's not my fault. I set up these tables for everybody to put their choices in, and somehow people keep adding cells to my tables when I've only given 5 choices. So
Yeah,
I don't know that I want to say that that's my fault, but I don't think we're here to cast blame or aspersions on anybody, so we'll just enjoy the 250th and talk about our 80s cartoons, which I will say it did take me a while to narrow some of that down. I did that months ago, and I am going to try as hard as I can not to second guess those choices. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're at right now. No, actually, where we are right now is we are here. I've got Pat and I've got Bo with me. Gentlemen, how are you?
Great.
Well, yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. So this time around, we are talking The Dream Team from 1989. Before we jump into that, let me do our quick regular little spiel here. We are a spoiler podcast, so we're going to talk spoilers with The Dream Team. If you haven't seen it, you want to see it first, go watch it and then come on back. We'll wait. We'll just sit here. We got plenty to talk about. If you haven't left us a review on iTunes, please go ahead and do that. It's real quick, and it helps us out, kind of lets us know what we're doing right, what we can work on, and just kind of gives us another way to interact with you, the people that are listening. And then visit our website, 30podcast.com is the best way to get in touch with us if you want to find out more about us through Instagram, Letterboxd, Facebook, Twitter, any of those other places. We are on all of those, so you can find us in one spot at our website, 30podcast.com. Now, before we get into This Week in 89, because last week we did This Week in 81, which is a little bit different, we're back in This Week in 89 this time, because this is a 1989 movie. Before we do that, I did want to say, I was looking up the other day, and I thought this was kind of fun, so I want to share this with you guys. I was looking up the other day on some of our podcast statistics, kind of like how we're doing in terms of, the show, and which episodes are getting listened to the most, and how many total listens we've had over the course of the years that we've been doing this. And we've always said, we're not a huge podcast. We don't have the massive audience that, some of these other podcasts have. But one thing I will say is we have, I believe, let me see if I can jump in there really fast. We are very quickly coming up on 20,000 all-time downloads. So that will be a pretty happy number.
Bad.
That's not bad. But the one thing I was looking at, even just within the last few days, we have not had an episode come out since what it would be would have been last Wednesday is usually when our episodes come out. And, we've had over a couple hundred just within the last week. So we've had seems like we have a lot of new listeners lately. So thank you for the new people coming in, and hope you're enjoying the show. Let us know, get in touch with us somehow. Let us know what you're enjoying about the show. But seems like we've had a lot more people kind of coming in lately. So with that, and maybe if we've got some new listeners, this will help them kind of go back and take a look at some of the more popular episodes. I went to go look and see what our top 10 episodes of all time are in our show. So these are, I wrote this list down, and this is in descending order. So starting with number 10, these are the top 10 episodes in terms of downloads or listeners to each of the episodes of all time since we started our podcast. Do any of you guys, and now I didn't preface this ahead of time. I didn't send you this to kind of prompt you or anything. Do you have any thoughts on, if you could think of a movie or an episode that we've done, do you have any thoughts on what you think would be the number one episode?
I would say just something in general. Like, I could see people like checking out some of the more popular movies. Like, we love Ghostbusters, so we're going to check out the Ghostbusters episode. Or we love,
I was going to say one of the newer genre movies, maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, so here in descending order, the top 10 episodes of all time. So if you're a new listener, or if you've been here for a little while and you haven't listened to any of these, you may want to go back and take a listen, because these are the ones that apparently are our top 10 most popular episodes. Number 10, I won't add in like a drum roll sound effect or anything, because that gets obnoxious over time. Number 10, episode number 147, Good Morning Vietnam.
All right.
Number 9, episode number 92, Poltergeist 2. Clearly, God is in his holy temple. Number 8 is episode number 139, The Running Man. I don't do requests. Number 7 is episode number 31, A View to a Kill.
Okay.
Number 6, episode number 148, Full Metal Jacket. This one, I thought this one was kind of fun. Our top 5 episode of all time is episode number 172, Earth Star Voyager.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Well, okay. So let's get more people on the Earth Star Voyager bandwagon and get that sucker officially made. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Apparently our podcast needs to start the Earth Star Voyager fan club.
I think we just did.
We'll get the reboot started and prepare for assembly and all that.
Oh my gosh.
Number 4, I know, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Number 4 is episode number 184, Infinity War.
Okay.
Yeah, see that I believe.
There we go. Jeff will be very, very happy. Our number 3 show of all time is episode number 46, Choosy Moms Choose Jeff.
Nice. Good for him. Good on Jeff.
So Jeff's episode is the number 3 episode of all time. Number 2 episode of all time is number 167, The Last Jedi.
Okay.
There we go.
And then here's the one that I was completely floored when I saw this one. By more than double. So there is a huge jump from number 2 to number 1.
Okay.
And the amount of, and this only gives me statistics on the number of direct downloads from the site that we use, but more than double the amount of people have directly downloaded number 1 than number 2. And the number 1 episode is episode number 95. I did a series of ones back in 2016 called Comics in 1986, The Dark Knight Returns. Mm-hmm. And it was The Dark Knight Returns comic. That one, we've had, the number of listeners for that one is double the number of listeners for our number 2 one, The Last Jedi.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. When I looked at those numbers, I was like, that's insane. That's a lot of people.
That's cool.
So there's a lot of comic book fans out there. There's a lot of comic book fans, a lot of Star Wars fans, a lot of Jeff fans, a lot of Marvel fans, and a lot of Earth Star Voyager fans. That's what I'm learning.
Well,
the Earth Star Voyager one is the most interesting, I have to say.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So if you have not listened to any of those episodes, that may just give you a sense of what you can go back and find if you want to go back into our back catalog. You can find those either by going to the 30 Podcast website, or another kind of fun way to find them is we have a list on Letterboxd. If you go letterboxd.com/30podcast, we have a visual list. You can kind of cycle through the movie posters or movie covers of the different movies that we've done up to this point for all 240 odd episodes. You can browse through them that way too. And each of those movies, if you click on it, there will be a link to that episode. So if you want to go find them that way, that's kind of a fun way to look through what we've done up to this point as well. So, so I just want to share that real quick. Didn't have any really other new movie news at this point, so I thought that might just be fun to throw out there and let you guys know what the people are liking.
That's cool.
Oh.
Very cool.
All right, let's jump on into This Week in 89. So this week in 1989, we are looking at probably about, we're looking about May 8th to May 14th, 1989. And Bo, you actually went in, you kind of filled in the notes for me on this episode, so if you've got anything else you want to add to any of these, let me know.
I will be sure to jump in.
Okay. So this week in 89, on May 11th, 1989, President George H.W. Bush orders nearly 2,000 troops to Panama. On May 13th, approximately 2,000 students begin hunger strikes in Tiananmen Square, China. And May 14th, the final episodes of both Moonlighting and Family Ties airs.
It was a rough week, man.
Yeah. So
Invading Panama and those two shows end, I don't know.
It's a tough week. Well, and the funny thing is, my wife Sharon has gone through, and over the course of probably the last few weeks or so, she found Family Ties. I think it's on Netflix right now.
Oh, right on.
And she's been going through and watching them. I think she might be in season 5 right now. I'm forgetting how many seasons that one went. I think it was at least like 5 or 6, maybe 7 seasons. But she's been loving them. I remember she remembered watching them when they were on, when we were kids. But, she's just been going whenever she's been here at home working on something or whatever. She's been watching through them and just, like right now when I'm recording, she's probably watching it right now. But just going through and just kind of remembering how much she enjoyed watching that.
Yeah. Shyamalan.
Yep.
That's what they say at the end of it, right? Isn't that what at the
Yep.
Yeah, at the end of the song. The top book was The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie. The top movie is Pet Sematary. The top song, Like a Prayer by Madonna. All right. Anything else to add about our week in 89?
No.
All right. No. Well, let's start dreaming here. The title of this one is The Dream Team. Came out on April 7th, 1989, rated PG-13. Runtime is 1 hour and 53 minutes. Director was Howard Zieff, who did Private Benjamin and My Girl. Producer was Joseph M. Caracciolo. Oh, I butchered that one.
Caracciolo. Probably, right?
Let's go with that one. Caracciolo. A Chorus Line and Spider-Man 2. Writers for this one, John Connolly and David Luca. Did Eddie and Working Trash. Cinematography done by Adam Hollander, who did Midnight Cowboy and 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag. Music was David McHugh, who did Mystic Pizza and Moscow on the Hudson. Budget, we believe, is probably somewhere around $15 million. Box office was $28.8 million in the U.S. Rotten Tomato critics give this one a 54%. Rotten Tomato audience give it a 61%. IMDb gives it a 65%. Letterboxd gives it a 60%. And CinemaScore gave it a B+. Starring Michael Keaton as Billy Caulfield. He was in Spotlight and Batman 89. Christopher Lloyd is Henry Sikorsky. He was in Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Peter Boyle was Jack McDermott. He was in Taxi Driver and Young Frankenstein. Putting on the Ritz. Stephen Furst was Albert Iannuzzi. He was in Babylon 5 and Animal House. Dennis, I knew I was going to mess this one up too. Dennis Boutsikaris.
Sure,
played Dr. Weitzman. He was in Money Monster and The Bourne Legacy. Lorraine Bracco played Riley. She was in The Sopranos and Medicine Man. Milo O'Shea played Dr. Newald. He was in The Verdict and the 1968 Romeo and Juliet. Philip Bosco was O'Malley. He was in Working Girl and The Money Pit. And James Remar was Gianelli, and he was in The Renaissance Man and Too Fast, Too Furious. Here is the trailer, and we will be back in just a moment.
Put your game face on. Here we go. I'll tell you something, that's the best backhand I've ever seen on Thor's.
4 major league psychotics.
I've never agreed with that diagnosis.
We're on a field trip to a ball game.
Hit the road, Jack. Yeah. Don't come back.
When their doctor disappeared.
We run into one complication. Murder.
What you say?
Could you come we had a good clinical psychiatrist in the neighborhood. We seem to have lost ours.
Now,
We ran into a little snag out here. Somebody's trying to kill Dr. Weitzman.
I fear my doctor may have been seized by the Romans.
they're on their own.
Kind of wanted by the police right now.
Bummer.
They're off their medication.
It's great to be young and insane.
And they're about to give the world a dose of reality.
We're a special combat unit with the United States Marine Corps. We've been tracking some Libyan terrorists. In fact, I think we've got them trailed to a bagel shop around the corner.
Give me a break.
All right, we're 4 escaped lunatics.
This I believe.
We gotta pull Weitzman out of the hospital before those 2 cops come back.
We are all naked in the eyes of the Lord.
Would someone please take me back to my room?
Those 4 nuts are still rattling around somewhere. There's an APB out on them.
Look out!
We came to town to see a ball game. Now they want to give us the chair. Hold it. I love New York. Bring your kids. Have them arrested. Do some time in the Big Apple.
Michael Keaton, Christopher Lloyd, Peter Boyle, Stephen Furst.
This is crazy.
I can relate to that. I got news for you psychos. We're getting better.
The Dream Team.
Arise and walk, my son.
Coming soon to a theater near you.
Okay, so real quick before we get too much further into kind of the basics of the plot of the movie and what we liked about it, Bo, this one was your pick. So when it came out that we were talking about movies that we missed, and you get to pick one movie from the decade of the '80s that we did not cover, what made you want to pick this one?
Well, it was one that I looked at for 1989, and it didn't make the cut. And everything else that just kind of popped into my head, we had actually covered. I think I even emailed John about a couple. I was like, did we do these? And it had been long enough that I didn't remember we'd done them.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know what that says, but...
It says we've done a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, there's that. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of fun. I've always loved this movie. This is one that I can go back to, maybe not quite as much as Pat can watch Cannonball Run, but I can go back to this one a lot. It's just a lot of fun. I've always loved it, and so I thought it would be fun to pull it off the pile.
There we go. All right. Well, very, very quickly, kind of the general gist of this movie is you have you start off the movie with 4. Let's see, there are 4 of them, right? Billy, Henry, Jack, and Albert, and they are patients in a mental institution. And they, we kind of start off the movie getting introduced to the idea that, first of all, we think Christopher Lloyd is one of the doctors. And I remember this part of the movie. It had been a long time since I've seen this one, but from the get-go, I remembered that, oh yeah, this is the part where you're totally convinced he's one of the doctors because he's trying to get everybody into the group therapy session.
This is going in my report.
Right.
Dr. Weitzman's not going to like this.
Right. He's going through, and you are completely convinced that he's one of the doctors, but then as you find out later on, he's one of the patients. He just happens to have a bit of a obsessive compulsive disorder that he's walking around with his clipboard and wearing the same coat as all the other doctors and doing that thing. So we kind of see the collection of the different patients that are being brought into the group session, and we get the real doctor comes in. Dr. Weitzman comes in, and he's been working with these guys, and then as we kind of move on, he has this idea that he wants to take them out of the institution and take them out to they're going to a Yankees game? Mm-hmm. It was a Yankees game, wasn't it? Yeah. Going to a Yankees game. He wants to take them out, get some fresh air. He feels like they're making some really good progress, but they just need to get out and get out into the world. So as they do, he gets that approved, and they get in their van and they're driving to New York City, and they get there and they have to make a bathroom stop at one point for Albert, and when that happens, the doctor accidentally sees someone get killed by some crooked cops, and he himself gets beaten up. And then at that point, the patients are kind of on their own. And so for the rest of the movie, it's kind of a series of events of them either trying to find the doctor or trying to protect the doctor, because we've got these 2 crooked cops who are trying to kill the doctor so that he can't wake up and reveal exactly what happened. And then as the movie kind of goes along, eventually the patients get blamed for the doctor being attacked, and for the person who got killed, they get blamed for that murder as well. And so you've got a bit of a little bit of mistaken identity, a little bit of a almost a Home Alone 2 Lost in New York kind of vibe to it. But you've got them stuck in the big city, and how are they going to react with all their different psychoses and other issues that are going on? How are they going to be able to handle themselves when clearly they had been committed to this institution for various different reasons. What's going to happen now that they are completely unsupervised in the city by themselves? And, the movie kind of takes it from there. So, yeah, I remember watching this as a kid. I don't know that it would have been one we saw in the theater, but it's definitely one that we would have rented at some point, because I remember seeing it several times as a kid, but I don't think I've seen it since, Bo, I think I told you, I don't think I've seen it since the early 90s. So it must have been one that we watched several times when it came out. And then past that, I don't remember seeing it, I remember seeing it when we lived in Texas. And we lived in Texas up until about 91. And I don't remember having watched it after that. So it must have been one that we rented several times. Maybe it's possible we recorded it off of TV or something and had a copy of it. But yeah, no, there were definitely parts of this movie that I vividly remembered. But this is one you said that was just a pretty special movie to you and that you watched it regularly.
Yeah, I don't know. I maybe it hit me at the right time growing up or whatnot, but just the humor in it just cracked me up, and the idea of these four mental patients, getting a field trip to go to a baseball game. I think we've talked about the general love of baseball recently, and it was sort of that, the beauty of their one day out. That, what they're going to do? They're going to go to a ball game and they're going to have some hot dogs. And that is like their ultimate goal. The doctor hands everybody a $10 bill and says, and the one guy puts it in his mouth and he says, "Well, you can eat that now if you want, but those hot dogs are pretty special, so you might want to wait." And I think that's the other cool thing about it. They show a doctor trying to treat his patients like people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is nice, And they counterbalance it with the other doctors who are like, "Oh yeah, these guys are really ready to go out. Sure, buddy. You have fun with that."
So
he does it anyway.
Yeah. So and Bo, I don't remember if you and I talked about this, but I know Pat, you and I were talking about this a little bit. I think earlier today. Mm-hmm. The days blend together sometimes. Yes. But I think we were talking about this earlier today, and we kind of were making the comment that, it might be difficult to see a movie get made like this today, and you might worry at some point, like, well, are we finding humor in something that shouldn't be made fun of? Mm-hmm. But Bo, the point you make, I think, kind of maybe answers that and says it's not being made fun of. That you're trying to show that these people are human beings. Like, yes, they may have some different issues going on, but you should be treating them as humans, just as the main doctor, just as Dr. Weitzman treats them as humans.
Right.
Because Pat, I know we've talked in the past about, like, What About Bob?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can get kind of an uneasy feeling being like, well, it was a comedy and it was made when it was made, but there are certain parts of that just make you feel a little bit uneasy.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, Bo, your point really kind of, looking at this movie from a different angle, it kind of clicks into sync with, as I was watching it, I was kind of like I was asking myself, is this a comedy? I mean, there's some humorous parts, but I don't know, and maybe that's part of looking at things with a modern lens. Now movies seem to be like, everything is so segmented. This is an action movie. This is a comedy movie. This is a thing.
Right.
Whereas this one, I was watching it, it was just like, yeah, it's just these four guys just like trying to get by. I mean, it was
right.
It was sort of like a Turner and Hooch. There were some funny parts to it, but no, it's just a story about people just trying to get by, and it was not a comedy movie. So now, putting that in partnership, I don't think they were necessarily poking fun at these guys. It was just showing these guys trying to rise up or overcome their, I don't know what the correct PC term of today is.
I don't think they tried to poke fun at their psychoses so much as the psychosis was used as a way to put a fish out of water.
Okay, yeah.
Like, how do you put someone with, what happens if someone with anger issues loses the leader and doesn't know what to do next? Well, he's going to lash out, and this is what that might look like. Mm-hmm. Albert can't communicate, so what's going to happen to him?
Mm-hmm. What do you do when you put Jesus in a church service?
Oh, jeez, yeah.
All sorts of fun things. He starts taking off his pants, which then you have to buy new ones at the Army surplus store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
that's a statement, clearly.
Yes. And to Pat's point about there being funny moments, I mean, one of my favorite lines in movies ever that I've never been able to use in real life. I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no strange gods before me. Out of my way, ass. Come on, that's awesome.
That was pretty good.
That's just outstanding. But the way the comedy just is there, but it's still kind of a caper movie every time they have to escape from their most recent entrapment, or when they tell the doctor at the end and they're on their way back, oh yeah, your other doctor buddies, yeah, they're all hopped up on drugs.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get them.
I prescribed
eventually.
100 milligrams of.
Yeah, Thorazine. They're fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry. And it shows, like, I'm all over the place with this movie, but the interesting thing is when they get back to their old lives, that's when they finally start to act more normal.
Right.
Albeit for a short period of time for most of them. They all eventually revert, but it shows that glimmer of hope that maybe the doctor was right, that maybe they do just need to get out. And, nothing breeds crazy like other crazy.
Right.
Well, that was part of it too, is that as you see them get back to their regular lives or get back to, situations that had been in before, part of me watching this movie this time now as an adult, as a kid watching it, I was probably just like, all these people are really funny. But watching it as an adult, you see them get back into those situations. And then it had me thinking, I'm like, well, then why are some of these people locked up in this institution in the first place? Like, you see that, and I'm thinking maybe in particular of, obviously you take your clothes off in public and, try to walk around, that you're going to get either arrested or something. But I think part of it was, especially Christopher Lloyd's character and Michael Keaton's character. I think I looked at both of those and I was like, I don't know that I'm seeing anything here that is so intense that you'd get sent away for it.
Well, and I that's one thing I was going to say. I don't think they do a great job of explaining why everybody's there.
Right. Because they do, at the beginning, they do talk about how they're just coming off of medication.
Right.
And they've made a lot of progress. And so maybe things were just way worse. And
we're
seeing them, right, we're seeing them at like
Lloyd's
the end of their
character
journey.
Might have committed himself.
Right. Right.
And you get the feeling that Billy probably knifed somebody pretty good.
Well, Billy's been arrested several times.
Right, and this may have been his ticket to not,
And one of his, when he's talking to the nurse and the nurse recognizes him, does he say like, I had that head wound, it was self-inflicted?
Yeah. So, danger to himself, danger to others sort of thing with Billy.
Yeah.
Albert's a little easier, and well, our Lord and Savior, he might have committed himself too, or the ad agency might have had him committed.
Yeah.
Right. Father, forgive us for we have sinned. We parked our car in a forbidden zone.
I have died and been reborn. I can do it again, Buster.
Yeah.
Oh God. So good. And a great cast again too. I mean,
yeah.
We recently talked about Cannonball Run, and it's not quite that star-studded, but still.
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd, Michael Keaton. Even, and I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm not even going to do it, but even the guy who plays Dr. Weitzman, I mean, he is in so much stuff.
Yeah.
Stephen Furst is he will always be Flounder, but and Peter Boyle's resume is pretty darn long,
right,
all by himself.
Yeah.
So, and then the people that I tell you, I love this movie. I never connected Lorraine Bracco till this viewing.
Oh, okay.
Really?
It had been a while since I saw it. I hadn't put that together. I did it the instant her name flashed on screen this time.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah.
Nice.
And then I heard her voice, and I was like, wow, I don't know how I missed that.
Right, because it is a very distinctive voice.
It really kind of is, how I missed it before. And it's one of those things, I have a feeling I didn't miss it, I just didn't remember it, if that means anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, we were regular watchers of The Sopranos back in the day, so I immediately, when I saw her in The Sopranos, she seemed familiar to me, and I don't know if it was from having watched this movie so much as a kid. I don't know if that's why, and I couldn't At the time, I'm not sure IMDb existed or I knew that it existed when we'd watched The Sopranos, but I knew, I'm like, this person seems so familiar to me. I just don't know where she's from. And then when I saw her in this movie, I was like, oh, no, that's where she's from.
Yeah, and she's it's funny. Doing the research for this, I looked her up and saw some of the other things she's been in, and I'm like, oh, I've seen her in more stuff than I realized. Sopranos is what we all remember, but I saw Medicine Man for sure.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
And wait, is she? There's a mob movie she's in.
Wasn't
Goodfellas.
she also in Goodfellas? Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't she?
Yeah, she's in Goodfellas.
She was Mrs. Hill.
Yeah.
If you ever saw the TV series I Married a Mobster, she was the narrator voice.
Okay.
Which is hysterical because she's got a great voice for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've already kind of touched on like some of the like favorite scenes, favorite quotes. Are there any others that you can think of? Because again, this is one of those movies that there's just so many funny scenes and there's just so many great quotes. Are there any particular that jump out at you? Like, I love this one. Like, if I could pick one, I love this one.
This might be just, I don't know why it struck me as amusing, and this is one of Billy's fantasies as they're driving in. And I hate to call it a bit because it's still sensitive for a lot of people, but his little bit about the two towers.
Yes.
I was an architect working on them. First they wanted to build just one, but I said, we're here. What the hell? Throw the other one up. He turned out pretty well, didn't it? Oh my God.
He's got a couple of those little things throughout where he's like, yeah, I built that, or I did this, or right? Was yeah.
Because that's another one of his things, like, he exaggerates. He lives in a fantasy world.
Yeah. Which, if he didn't have the anger issues, I'm sitting there watching that, I'm going to be like, well, and they mentioned that he writes. Are you still writing? Or they keep asking him things like that. I'm like, well, that's perfect. Like, be a writer. Maybe if you could just deal with some of the anger issues and the violence, then, you don't need to be locked up. You just, use your imagination, write, be a writer, and do that kind of stuff. There were a couple of different lines in this one that I thought were funny, and some of them, not necessarily like laugh out loud lines, but one of the ones that I thought was kind of funny towards the beginning was when he comes in to tell each of them that they're going to the baseball game.
Yeah.
And he goes into Billy's room, and he says something like, there's 60,000 or 65,000 seats up at that stadium, but I want you to get your hopes up because they're all screwed down.
Yeah.
Right after you've had the scene where he throws the chair out the window.
Yeah.
The other
shows
one
that the doctor has a sense of humor with these people.
Right. The other one too was, still Jack when he's, completely convinced that he is Jesus. Same one as the Father forgive us for we have sinned. We parked a car in a forbidden zone. But the one right before that, when he walks up to the tow truck and he's, stop, who dares to tow the van of the living Christ?
Yeah.
Whenever Billy is self-aware of being a mental patient is really good too. When he's tangling up with Gianelli, I'm a police officer, drop the gun. I'm a mental patient, I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a mental patient. Yeah. I'm not impressed now.
Yeah, there's a couple others. I can't find the exact wording, but there's a couple other times where he just says, yeah, I'm a mental patient. What? Oh, you guys need to pay up and get out of here. Who the hell are you? I'm an escaped mental patient with a history of violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. Puts the guy's face right in the pie or on the plate, whatever the heck it was. But yeah.
Or my personal favorite, it's great to be young and insane.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel like he could spin around and go, you want to get nuts?
Yeah.
Come on, let's get nuts.
I do like the comment that the doctor makes when he first walks in the room and sees that the chair is halfway through the window. He just says, looks like one of our chairs tried to make a break for it.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is the beauty of it. They established that relationship that they have with this doctor in one sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That says everything and sets the table. You don't have to delve any deeper into that. It's done.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing that makes this movie so good is the writing does that in a very subtle way.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to beat you over the head with it. I think Pat said it best. It's just about these guys getting by every day.
Yeah, and it was funny. It was fun watching it and realizing Christopher Lloyd is a patient there. He isn't one of the doctors, And it took me probably longer than most to figure that whole piece out. You guys had seen it so long ago. Do you remember like how long it took you in that opening sequence before you realized that, oh, wait a minute, Christopher Lloyd is a patient there?
I think when I first saw it, it probably took me till he said, take off the coat.
Okay.
Yeah, because having seen this as a kid, I probably wouldn't have figured it out until he told him to sit down with the rest of the patients.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was when he was talking to the guys outside, and he's just like, I don't like to go in there alone. Go in. I'll be in shortly. And it was kind of like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
But perfect casting for the guys, for what they played. Yeah. I mean, they were spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was well done all around. And even the choice of music was just perfect. I mean, when they're in the van and they're all doing "Hit the Road, Jack."
Yeah.
I mean, come on, too good. They should get that. Can you get that whole group together? I think you'd need someone to play Peter Boyle, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But you should get. Well, maybe that's where what's his name sits. But they should redo that for Carpool Karaoke. That would be funny.
That'd be a good one.
James Corden can fill in for Peter Boyle.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I think isn't Stephen Furst? Isn't he dead? The Albert character,
possible.
the flounder character from Animal House.
Possible.
I thought he died. Yes, he died a couple years ago. He was 63 when he died.
Yeah. So maybe James Corden plays Stephen Furst.
There you go.
And then we need someone to play Peter Boyle because that scene is hysterical.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the fact that he's the other one that starts singing next.
Right.
And not even just like a little bit. He's just belting it out in the back seat.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, before we go on to our 5 questions part here, I will say the one line in the movie that took me out of the movie just for a second and made me a little bit jealous was at the very end of the movie when they're like, we got $42 left. That can get us 4 seats and a couple of dogs.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, man. You got $42 and that can give you 4 seats and a few hot dogs at a baseball game?
Well, you can't use 21st century sensibilities with looking
I
at
know.
it.
I know. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not even sure I can get 2 hot dogs for $42 now.
Yeah.
It's sad but true.
Yeah. You know what, it's funny, I was sitting there watching Michael Keaton and watching him play, and John, we were kind of having one of our ongoing discussions earlier about different film composers and do they reuse ideas, and is that good, is that bad, and whatnot. And then, the comment came up, well, it's kind of like an actor with a look or a delivery of a line or something, or in the most extreme sense, they're kind of playing the same guy in whatever movie they're in, okay? So do we accuse an actor of stealing from their own material and all that? And it's funny because I was watching Michael Keaton in this, and in thinking about it, it's like all the hallmarks of what I've that's Michael Keaton from Mr. Mom. That's Michael Keaton in Batman. That's Michael Keaton in this. That's Michael, you kind of are picking up his different mannerisms and how he acts. And it just came together so well in this. Because, I mean, he was able to bring a depth to that character where you see the anger and how he can't control it, but then it'll flip and it'll be, he's kind of above it all. He's better than those other guys. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't that the thing on him that he was leaving his group when it was going to group. He was kind of like leaving it behind, and whoever was right, wasn't he always trying to distance himself? Maybe that's a better way to describe it from the group. And he was able to bring that out in the character too. As it was like, hey, don't associate with me with these guys. So yeah, I really like Michael Keaton as an actor. I guess that's what I'm trying to say in a long, turn-it-about way. But he really can. He really brings his characters to life. He does a really good job with it.
Yeah. Real quick before we get into the 5 questions part, it's kind of funny. I've got like this extension on my computer that whenever I look at like a movie or something else, there's like this Amazon Assistant thing that will pop up and say, "Hey, we can tell you're looking at the Dream Team. Would you like to see some other movies that customers have enjoyed watching?"
Okay.
And I was like, "Okay, this looks kind of interesting." So I actually just clicked on it just now, and the top 4 movies that they've got for people who have either purchased or looked at the Dream Team. You got Multiplicity with Michael Keaton and Andie MacDowell.
Okay.
Which is a fun movie. I've seen that one a bunch of times. One I haven't seen before, but now I'm kind of interested in maybe trying to find it. Loose Cannons with Gene Hackman and Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, that is so funny.
I have never seen this one.
Oh my God, Loose Cannons is great, and then Spies Like Us.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we've done that. We did Spies Like
Yeah.
Us. We had that one as one of our
I always
shows, but I've
think of-
never seen. Actually, Loose Cannons is 1990, so maybe we can do it next year.
Yeah, Loose Cannons is good. It has been
the
years
synopsis,
since I've seen that.
if you haven't seen this, the synopsis for it, real quick, is just veteran Gene Hackman teams up with a schizophrenic detective Dan Aykroyd in this wacky, action-packed thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Also starring Dom DeLuise.
Yep. It's so fun.
Another one that they had on here as like a recommended one is One Good Cop. It's more of a drama. It's got Michael Keaton.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, okay, now I know the one you're
Have you
talking
seen
about.
that? I've never seen this one either.
It's been years.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
No. It says the synopsis is detective becomes the guardian of 3 girls when his partner dies.
Yep.
So obviously that one not maybe quite so much a comedy.
No, not as much.
And then the last one on here for one of the recommended ones is Night Shift from 1982. When financial planner Chuck Lumley, loser Bill Blazejowski, I always say that one wrong, Blazejowski, and prostitute in need of a pimp Belinda Keaton meet at the New York morgue, nothing will ever be the same on the Night Shift.
Yeah.
And that one's got it's directed by Ron Howard. It's got Henry Winkler, Michael Keaton, and Shelley Long.
Yeah, that one's amusing too.
Yeah. So I don't know. I saw these pop up here, and I was like,
a friend of my uncle's worked at a Marriott a billion years ago.
Yeah.
And so at one point he had a rig figured out where he could record all of the pay-per-view movies at the hotel, right?
Oh, nice.
So he had a library of movies that was endless.
There you go.
I saw so many movies back then because of that guy.
Yeah.
Night Shift was one of them.
Okay.
Lady Hawk.
Oh, yeah.
Just all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, Loose Cannons now. I think I want to go take a look for that one. Maybe that'll be on the list for next year.
That's solid.
He asks each traveler 5 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
You've got to ask yourself one question.
What are you asking me for? I don't know.
What you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. And may God have mercy on your soul.
All right, so 5 questions, and this time around, so and Bo, I'm just going to say how nice of a person you are, because you actually went through and you took all the notes for this one, and you did the 5 questions for this one.
Well, not all the notes. John's giving me too much credit.
Well,
the plot notes that John wrote
I threw
are
a few
much
things
more
in,
extensive than mine would have been.
Those plot notes, no, those plot notes are copied from IMDb. So
fair enough.
I didn't write those. I bulleted those.
You went and got them, though.
I went and got them. So
I did not do that.
But you did more of the other work. So I take back everything I've ever said about you.
Well, everything though. I mean,
you know what?
Might be a stretch.
Yes, I will. I will take back everything I said. That doesn't mean I can't say anything from this point on.
That's very true.
Okay.
You have left yourself open.
I have.
That is probably a good idea.
I have. All right. So our 5 questions this time around. Question number 1. You are the doctor. Where do you take your group for some fresh air? And Bo, you came up with this one, so I'm assuming you got something in mind.
I do. You know, it's funny. I went back and forth on a few. I was trying to analyze their psychoses a little more because I thought it needed to be something calmer than New York City, and maybe calmer than a Yankee game.
There's that, yeah.
But at the same time, I think he was playing to baseball for Albert for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually wrote down minor league baseball.
Okay.
Just something smaller and calmer was what I think maybe they needed. To go from the insane asylum to New York City, maybe not the best call. Just saying. I also did write down, horse racing, but then I thought that might play into other psychoses that we didn't want to get into.
Okay. Well, yeah, gambling and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah, actually, mine were kind of along the same lines. Like the first one I wrote without even giving much thought to it. The first one I wrote down, obviously this is not interesting enough for it to be made into a movie, but
neither were mine. Don't get me wrong.
Well, right, but the first thing I thought of was Chicago Botanic Garden.
Oh, sure.
I'm like,
yeah, something,
it'd be a good place to
soft
go. You
landing.
just get out, and you're out in the fresh air. If you've ever been there, they've got all these different things you can do, like all the different parts of the garden, different types of the garden.
Right.
We've had a membership for years and years and years, so we go there pretty regularly. The other thing about that is it is almost completely enclosed. So if they get loose, there's kind of, only so far they can go. So I think I was also thinking of that piece of it too. Like,
yeah, and a fair point, as
Yeah.
illustrated by the movie.
Right. But then I was thinking, if some would find that boring, like it's not quite like going to a Yankee game, then my other thought was go to something like a smaller scale baseball game or sporting event or something. So my other thought was Sharon and I would regularly go to University of Illinois baseball games when we were down there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And mostly because they were free for students.
Well, that helps.
It helps too. But we really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It's just on a smaller scale. It's you kind of get maybe a little bit more invested in the team and the players, and you kind of get to know some of the people around you and stuff like that. So that was, if it needed to be a sporting event, I would have gone with an Illini baseball game.
There you go.
Well, it's funny. I think I'm going to take. Both years. I mean, that was right where I was thinking. And my first thought was, get outside, see the trees, and something like that. But since you took the Botanic Gardens, I think I'll say maybe like down to, like a beach, and not necessarily.
Oh, there you go.
Just out like by the. I mean.
Yeah.
Now they were New York, so I mean that it could be that the seashore, ocean shore. If we're talking like from where we're at, maybe a nice beach along Lake Michigan, but just somewhere out, and obviously not totally contained because they could jump in and start swimming for it. But someplace where you see right where they're at, and you can keep your mind with that.
Let me correct you there for a second. Jack would start walking on the water.
He would walk, and then there would be that whole thing. But they could sit, and if just kind of do their thing until it was time to go. So
yeah,
that would be my first thought.
Nice. All right, question number 2. Which of our dream team's psychosis would you absolutely not want to suffer from? And I think my answer, pretty much right away, when I just compared all the different ones, my answer is probably Albert. Like the inability to communicate. So much of my job and just me as a person is all about communication. Yep. And so I have always said, whether, if I were ever to be injured in such a way where I could no longer communicate, I think that probably would be the most difficult thing for me.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I go for that one. I go for the Albert one, because the other ones I feel like I could deal with. Right. Just knowing myself, I could deal with those a little bit better than, although Henry's stuff would probably drive me nuts too.
Yeah. But yeah, if I had to choose one, it was definitely Albert.
Yeah.
The inability to express myself would be hard.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I'll swim upstream on this one a little bit and just say the guy that was Frankenstein that kept taking his clothes off. I mean...
Yeah, Jack.
I am the Lord your God, out of my way.
Yeah, I just think... I mean, I get what you're saying, the inability to communicate, but then for me, looking at that, where, I mean, is that all how he saw the world? And I mean, it just that whole thing where I don't want to say that the other guys, I mean, I am not going to sit there and say, well, those other things to play, they could just control it. But I mean, that whole thing, he was literally kind of in his own world. And it was like, I'm not sure if there's much crossover at this point between that. And he kept bouncing back and forth between, seeming to comprehend what he was doing and then not. I wouldn't want to deal with that. The other ones seem to be a little bit more of a...
maybe manageable?
Manageable. Well, it was like they took things that maybe people that aren't committed to a hospital or an asylum or whatever deal with, but just kind of took them to excess. I mean, there's people like that have a problem, like they lose their temper, or they have anger management issues, or they lash out, but they're not like committed or something like that. What's Christopher Lloyd character? I mean, obviously
Henry,
he seemed to think that he was a doctor, but there's someone that just likes everything in place, follow the rules, checking his time, put your shoes in the, like there's an element of me that's kind of like, let's clean up, let's get things in order and all that. Nothing to the extreme of what you see in the movie. So that's why those two things seem to be like you said, manageable or just going further down the road of something that people already have issues with. But the whole thinking you're the Lord and taking your clothes off and that whole thing, like I just...
All right. Question number 3. Favorite Christopher Lloyd role in either TV or film?
I wrote this one, and I wanted to ask you if we did this one when we did Back to the Future, but
I don't think so, because we
didn't stop me. So
no, we weren't really doing 5 questions back then.
Oh, that's a good point.
So,
all right, good.
Yeah.
Well, not to rehash.
We might have asked something like it, but
right.
Not formally.
Not to rehash a TV show I brought up not too long ago with another character from a movie we just watched, but I'm going to bring up Taxi again.
Yeah.
And his Reverend Jim Ignatowski.
Mm-hmm.
There is a scene from that show that my wife and I will still throw back and forth with each other randomly. If someone says slow down, or if someone asks about a yellow light, there is a bit from Taxi where Reverend Jim had to go get his driver's license renewed. And he is taking the written test, and he is trying to cheat.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to speak to Jeff Conaway's character, and he is saying, "What does a yellow light mean?" And Jeff Conaway says, "Slow down." And Jim goes, "What does a yellow light mean?" "Slow down." "What?" And it goes on like that for what feels like 5 minutes.
That's awesome.
Only 30 seconds of video. But it's probably on YouTube. What does a yellow light mean from the show Taxi? And it is priceless comedy. Awesome. And I just love that show, and that character is just awesome.
This was kind of I know my answer right away, but at the same time I was like, well, there's Taxi, there's Star Trek 3, there's there's Clue, there's oh gosh, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? There's all those.
That was on my list.
Certain people in my family would be upset with me if I didn't mention he's also in Suburban Commando.
Yes, he is.
Now, that's a very small amount of people that will know and appreciate Suburban Commando, but I just knew I had to mention it just in case certain members of my family are listening.
I was frozen today.
Uncle Fester in the Addams Family movies. So many good. Angels in the Outfield. He was great in that one. Just so many good things that he's been in. I just can't. I can't not do Back to the Future. Like I got to go Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Because that is just I can't think of all those other ones I listed. I'm like, oh, he was so good in that. He was so good in that. Amazing in that. Hilarious in that. But if you mention Back to the Future, I'm just going to go, oh, yeah, Doc. Like, I can't separate him from Doc. So, so I got to go that one. It's got to be Back to the Future.
Yeah, I remember I agree. And I remember being a kid and thinking, oh, yeah, okay, Doc Brown, like, that's who he was. And then you see him in something else, and it's like, well, that's not Doc Brown. Oh, wait, that's right, he's an actor. Well, that's not the guy that, I kind of remember having those things as kids, so...
I will, you know what I will say? I'll give, of all the other movies, even though I saw him in everything else earlier, a number 2, if I was to say, my second choice might be Clue.
Okay.
I might go Professor Plum and Clue. Might be my second choice. But see, then I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? All those other ones? I don't know. So, Back to the Future. That's what I'm going to leave it at.
Got it. I think I got to go Back to the Future just because that was how I know him. I mean, it's just that was him. And so it wasn't, Christopher Lloyd. It was Doc Brown's in another movie. Mm-hmm. And then when you see him and he was in a movie where he was kind of a strange character, which he kind of is in a lot of his things, it was like, that's not Doc Brown. That's not right. That's, that was like world bending to me,
Why does that Klingon commander sound like Doc Brown?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I didn't even realize that till later. Like, I had to read it, then it was like, oh, yeah. Like, I never processed that was Doc Brown. But, like, the Who Framed Roger Rabbit scared the pants off me, not only just because that was a scary character, but because that's Doc Brown. Like that's like an evil version of the guy that you think you knew. So yeah, I'd have to say Back to the Future. I mean, Commander Krug, that was one of the great all-time villains.
I give 2 minutes.
2 minutes to you and your valiant crew.
Valiant crew.
Is it valiant?
Get out! Get out of there!
Get out of there!
I feel like we had this conversation. Is it valiant or gallant? We've talked about this before, I feel like.
We have.
Yeah. I think it's gallant.
I give the 2 minutes, right?
Gallant crew. John wins.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
And I should have learned long ago not to doubt John when it comes to
when it comes to
movie
useless
quotes.
knowledge.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, more than 3 websites that are listing the quote as gallant. I'm going to go ahead and say that's a confirmed kill.
There it is.
There we go. There we go. All right. Number 4, the ending. Do you let him go unsupervised or lock him back up? I say let them go. They've handled the entire plot of this movie, so I think they're fine. Clearly, if they can be chased down by corrupt cops and, have the wherewithal to, just stay sane for a little bit longer, if they can do that, I think they can probably go off to a Yankee game by themselves. Because clearly they have progressed to a point where they're okay to be unsupervised for a little bit.
I think the only red flag is I'm not sure that they can function without a common goal. And I don't know that going to the game is a common goal so much as saving Dr. Weitzman would have been.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to let them go. I just don't know if they can get 10 feet without slapping each other like the Three Stooges.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's that true, too. Yeah. That is true.
It's hard. And this is really kind of what I bumped into before. I'm really taking this question way too deep. I feel like they're human beings, and so you want to just say, let them go. Like that whole lock them up thing. I kind of bump on that saying it.
Well, and lock them up, that's me.
Right.
Right, no, I know, for lack of a better term.
Writing a question.
Right. But in the same token, well, here, I'll quote the Bill Murray thing. Baby steps. Baby steps. We might need to just have we might just have to have some scaffolding in place for them.
Sure.
Because it was, did they click back and they're fine now? And yeah, I don't know. That one's a hard one to answer. So I would say, I don't know if I could do the either or. I would think maybe a few more trial runs. Maybe you guys sit there, we'll have someone off to the side that you can get to if you need help. I mean.
Right. A bit of a softer landing.
Yes, exactly.
All right. And last question, number 5. Is Billy ready to get out?
He's closer than most.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what I had written down. He's the most functional of the group.
He's probably the only one in that group I would trust her to drive the van.
Yeah.
That's also true.
I think part of is he ready is she ready? Because he needs a support system of some kind.
Yeah, you kind of worry that if the relationship between them did not work out, then what is his relapse going to look like?
Right. Exactly. Because he didn't have any delusions, or he wasn't thinking he was someone else. It was just that he'd fly off the handle. Right?
And he'd tell some lies he
Okay.
helped build he was the architect for the World Trade
That's
Center.
right. That's right.
Right. With some violent tendencies, but
Right, but if he channels that into his writing, he's probably okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Well, do we have anything else we want to say about the Dream Team?
Pat, what'd you think of it for your first time watch?
So I liked it, and this kind of came up before. My only thing is I originally bumped on the fact that am I being entertained by guys seeing people that are obviously there are people exactly like that, but am I being entertained by people that are mental patients, for lack of a better term? And it's like I said, it kind of set me back because the way you framed it right at the beginning kind of just was like, well, it's just people kind of working through the thing. I really liked it. Let me just answer your question as opposed to just saying a bunch of words. I really did. I really enjoyed it. I like the idea of the underdogs that come together and find a way to get the girl, stop the bad guys, rescue their friend or the doctor, and everything like that. I like seeing that. I like seeing the the dopes that where the doctors get their comeuppance, like when he's just like, you better drive us right to such and such hospital. Oh, well, that's what we better do. And so they get in, and then the next thing you see is them being committed. And then whatever the heck drug he prescribed, and they pumped him full of that, and those guys were out of it at that point. So that it was entertaining. But the only thing I still bump into is like some of the 5 questions. Kind of got me because it was like, okay, are they ready to be on their own, or are they good? And it's like, my understanding is that it's not like you're cured, like you've had a virus and now you don't have it anymore. But it's like you just need strategies in place that can help you get by. And but I don't think that was the nature of the movie, was to delve real in depth with that. So that's like the one piece I just kind of trip on, is it's like, okay, I just want to enjoy it for what it is and let it go, but then there's that other aspect that I keep coming back to where, how would this be in real life? Which I know wasn't the nature of the movies, and then that leads me back to the first song. So I don't know, did that answer your question? I did enjoy it. It was a fun movie.
Right on.
So, yeah, and Christopher Lloyd and Michael Keaton, just watching those guys do their thing is pretty awesome. So
I have a hard time finding a Michael Keaton movie that I don't enjoy.
Well, he's pretty fantastic.
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah, he's really good. Did you see Spotlight?
Yes.
No, that's been in my Netflix queue for a really long
Good
time. But
stuff.
Yeah. Birdman was probably the last of his newer movies. Well, no, that's not true, though, when he was the villain in the Spider-Man movie.
Right.
Yeah.
But Birdman was good stuff. Yeah, I got to go watch Spotlight, because that's been in my watch list for a really long time, and I just haven't watched it.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, and then what else did he do that was really... Founder, about the McDonald's thing.
Oh, yes. No. I watched that one, too.
I have not seen that yet.
I did watch that one, too. That was a really good one.
Yeah. And he's just really, really good at whatever he's in. And it could be weird, or it could be normal, or, and he's equally as good.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just tired, I'm just not thinking right, but how many guys can be Beetlejuice, Batman, Mr. Mom, the guy in Spotlight,
and a mental patient with an anger problem.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really...
And Ray Kroc.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it the fact that he can humanize all of these people? I mean, we talked about him being the most normal Bruce Wayne for Batman. He makes Ray Kroc kind of a, character you're pulling for. Mr. Mom, that's a real type character. Michael Keaton, though, I mean...
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To quote the Big Lebowski, that creep can roll, man. That creep can roll.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah.
We got a few more years until that one.
Just a few.
But God, will that be fun when we get there?
It's going to be one of the quote-a-thon episodes.
Yeah.
How about it?
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for the Dream Team. So this Dream Team has got to head out. But thank you for joining us for the Dream Team tonight. If you've got some stuff you want to share with us, if you're like, I've never seen that movie, or I've just seen it for the first time, or I used to watch that forever, all the time, on repeat as a kid or growing up or whatever, we'd like to hear from you. So if you want to head over to our website, 30podcast.com, or hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, any of those different places. We interact in all those different ways. So if you want to tell us some things that you enjoy about the Dream Team, or any of our other episodes that are coming up pretty soon, feel free to get in touch with us there. We've also got the voicemail line. You can find the number for that one on our website. Before we go this time around, just really quickly, if you're looking forward to the other movies that we're doing in this month, we started last week with Cannonball Run. This week was the Dream Team from '89. Next week will be, and Pat, I apologize in advance for this one. Have you watched American Werewolf in London?
Not yet. I'm building up my. You warned me. You warned me of this movie.
I did, and I apologize.
Okay.
That's all I can say.
Is this one like Freddy Krueger, where I'm going to watch it and say that wasn't as bad as I thought, or is this one that's going to be like, nope, this is pretty scary. I got to mentally.
Without going too far into it, there are definitely some bits and pieces that are scary, like parts that'll kind of make you jump because something either jumps out at you or something happens fast and you just kind of get scared by it. Some of it's a little gory.
Okay.
It's a werewolf movie, so people are dying. But there are parts of this when you watch, and definitely don't watch this with any kids around.
Okay.
That should already be stated, but but this movie also has some of the funniest parts of a movie. I feel of the other movies of the 80s. It has some of the funniest parts in it too.
Okay.
So that is one of the reasons I picked this movie, because this movie is a weird and fun combination of horror and comedy, and I don't even know what else. But
all right.
Yeah. So I think parts of it you'll enjoy. I don't think there's anything that's so ridiculously scary that, it's not a sustained scary.
Okay.
Like, there's a few parts here and there that are a little scary, but other than that, you should be fine.
All right.
But I know you're not a horror fan, so I felt I should apologize.
Well, I'll find a stuffed animal or something to cuddle with.
Okay. If you need one, let me know. I can come by.
All right.
Okay. And then after that, we will be taking a look at E.T. And if you're my sister, that would be your horror movie, because she has never liked E.T. So that one is coming up for 1982. That is Jeff's pick.
Cool.
Coming up in June, if you're looking to get ahead, coming up in June, we eventually at some point in June, not sure exactly when, we will have our 250th episode. And Jeff will be running that one. It'll be our 80s cartoons, favorite 80s cartoons episode. And the rest of June is going to be Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Drugstore Cowboy, Tango and Cash, and Roadhouse. So if you're looking forward to those, please come and join us in June. Subscribe to the podcast so that you get those hot and fresh every week when they come out on Wednesdays. But in the meantime, that's going to do it for the Dream Team this time around. So thank you to my Dream Team that's been here tonight. Thank you, Bo, and thank you, Pat.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
All right, we will see you all back here next week for An American Werewolf in London. In the meantime, be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies. We'll see you back here next week.